Hello and welcome everyone to tonight's Youth Town Hall. My name is Cindy. I will be moderating tonight's discussion. Share Our Strength through our No Kid Hungry campaign is really excited to host this town hall, which is an opportunity to speak with young people on the work that they're doing in their communities to help combat childhood hunger. We're joined today by 5 No Kid Hungry youth ambassadors working all across the country to bridge the gap between meals during the last few summer months. As many as 13 million kids, or 1 in 6, could face hunger this year, with summer being the hungriest time of the year for many of them. When schools are closed, it's really hard to reach kids with the food that they need, and the pandemic has only heightened the need for meals that reach kids outside of school time. With the generous support of the Sodexo Stop Hunger Foundation, our youth ambassadors are paid college students dedicated to helping out kids in their communities, whether it be packaging and distributing summer meals or holding kickoff events and doing outreach to help promote the different meal sites. They also work behind the scenes to crunch numbers about participation. They write blog posts and advocate for the expansion of programs and services like Pandemic EBT. Our youth ambassadors are invaluable resources who can speak to the work that's being done on the ground, and we are so lucky to have them join us tonight for what is and what I hope to be a wonderful and productive conversation. We're going to have all of our youth ambassadors introduce themselves quickly before I ask the first question of the night.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Costner. My partner organization is the Chickasaw Nation Nutrition Services in Ada, Oklahoma, and I'm a community health major at the University of Oklahoma.
Hey y'all, my name is Callie. I'm from Texas. My partner organization is City Square, and I am a social work major at Freed-Hardeman University.
Hi, my name is Isis Murillo Bravo. I work for End Hunger Connecticut. I am a business administration major at Manchester Community College.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany, and I'm working with the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance. My major is Economics and Public Policy for Sustainable Development, and my college is Hendrix College.
Hello guys, my name is Rachel, and I'm partnering with Feeding the Gulf Coast in Alabama, and I am currently a student at the University of Alabama studying dietetics.
Wonderful. Wonderful to virtually meet all of you. The first question to kick us off for tonight is, what is the most challenging part about the work that you're doing, especially during a pandemic? And how is the work different from what you anticipated going into your position?
I think physically the hardest part of the work is definitely the Texas heat. Trying to avoid heat stroke is a sport. But I think mentally it's remembering for me that I have vacation time and I can go home after work and unwind, unplug, and step away from work. But childhood hunger is something that these kids can't step away from and don't get PTO from. And it's a consistent issue for them. They don't come home from school and get to escape from that. And so I think that's both tough and motivating. Like, it has kind of a duality to it. But that's definitely been hard. But as far as being different from what I anticipated, it's a lot more prevalent than I could have ever imagined. I think a lot of times childhood hunger is something that's across the nation or even international, or it's, on the other side of the state. But what I've come to realize is that it's in my backyard and down the street and in my community. So getting out of that ignorance really definitely pushed me to action, but very enlightening and a lot different than I figured, but in a good way.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel what Callie said about just like the mental challenge of working with hunger. And so I feel like for me, that's also been the most challenging part. It's kind of like feeling connected to the work. And especially, I think with it being still a pandemic here, there's been more kind of like behind the scenes work and working like from my room and from home. And so I guess like my challenge has been feeling like connected to the work and like remembering that hunger affects like real people, like instead of just thinking about it, because sometimes I think about it as like this like huge concept and like there's so much hunger in the US, remembering that it's like the people I go to school with, the people that I go to like the grocery store with, and that hunger is impacting my community. And so I feel like that's helped me feel more connected to the work. And so like behind the scenes, it's been more like talking to people over Zoom or making like flyers or things like that. And so trying to figure out like how to increase like summer meal participation and like how to reach people like when feeling disconnected, because I really do enjoy like talking to people. So that's been like a challenge of figuring out how to do that.
So I definitely agree with both Callie and Brittany that it's a lot harder when you see it so close up, how the issue affects so many people around us, people like down the street, like Callie mentioned. So it's definitely hard, and it definitely pushes us to work harder every day. I do agree with Brittany. I also love interacting with people and talking to a lot of people. So it has been hard that even though we are serving a lot of meals in Connecticut, we're not able to visit as many of them, because a lot of them have COVID restrictions. They're not really accepting any visitors. So that has been hard. And on top of that, because of COVID, a lot of organizations are either closed or 50% or even less capacity. So it has been hard to reach a lot of the employees when we're trying to organize different outreach efforts. And again, with what Brittany said, our work has been a lot of behind the scenes, which is really exciting because we still get to make a difference in every one of our actions, through every social media post, through every flyer that we distribute at any organizations. But it is very different from what I expected. I expected to have a lot more interaction with the kids and with all the people that work there, like the chefs and the teachers and everything else. So it has been different, but it's still very exciting and inspiring to be part of this change.
Thank you all. You all mentioned so many different barriers to your work, but what really shines through in all of those different answers was your determination to push past that, to help feed kids. And if I say it once, it's not enough. And if I say it 100 times, it's still not enough. But really, thank you all for the wonderful work that you're doing to help end childhood hunger across your communities. Our youth ambassadors work in communities all across the United States. The next question that I have for our panelists is, how would you describe your community, and why is it important to create a welcoming environment for kids and teens?
So here in Mobile, Alabama, since our city is located on the coast, we're a port city, and we have a very wide range of people groups here in Mobile. We've got, different races, different cultures, different backgrounds, and, all ages. So I think since there's such a diversity in the people here in Mobile, the kids, living in these communities and in these families and going to these schools with such differences, and the people might, not necessarily feel like they belong. They might not have that sense of belonging. And I think this is, a very important reason as to why they need to feel, welcomed when we do summer feeding programs. They need to feel like, they're wanted there and they belong there, and, that they're valued as people and as individuals. So I think that's why it's very important in creating these welcoming environments. So you can build that trust between the kids, because, when they first start getting into these programs, they're, unfamiliar with the people working there and the programs themselves. So that's why building these trusting relationships is so vital and important.
I definitely agree. And just to kind of add to that, as far as downtown Dallas and just Dallas in general, the DFW Metroplex is ginormous, but so it has a ton of diversity and a lot of different people. But the cool thing about Dallas is that it has so much opportunity because there's such a wide range of interest and strengths and skill sets. And so a lot of people are attracted to Dallas because of those opportunities and because of their excitement and willingness to change. On the latter half of the portion of the question, kind of adding on to what was previously said, the welcoming environment, I'd argue, is almost as important as the actual food itself, because there's two things that you get from giving the food to these kids. You're obviously giving them the physical nutrition that they need, but also giving them that welcoming environment and positive interaction has been what I've noticed very beneficial. Because once you start using that inclusive lingo and you start saying things like, I'm so glad that you're here, and you start building those relationships with those kids, you see that the kids positively respond. and they're excited to see you, and they're excited to be there and to get nutrition. And these kids are told so often everything that is wrong with their lives, everything that's wrong with their education or where they live or the things that they're eating. And so telling them that they're doing something right by being here and just being present and being the fun-loving souls that they are has made such a difference with each of the kids that we've interacted with. So it's an extremely vital part of what we do.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said, Rachel, and Callie too, about the importance of diversity for creating a welcoming environment. My community is Northwest Arkansas, and we have a lot of Hispanics and Marshallese. And so something I've seen in the summer meal sites in my hometown is that they're trying to serve foods that are also culturally appropriate and like more inclusive to people with different cultures, such as like rice and chicken, things like the Steven special, or even like pupusas. And so I really appreciate that like my community is trying to value like the different places people come from, like not just like one country, but also like kind of like El Salvador, Nicaragua. And so that's something that I like seeing, is just how my community is responding to the students and wanting to serve foods that they're going to enjoy too, that they're used to having at home. And so I feel like it is really important to create a welcoming environment for kids and for teens by valuing their culture and their preferences as well. And so that way they also feel included and valuable, and that they also get like excited about the foods that they're eating.
Thank you all for those wonderful responses and painting such a heartwarming picture of the communities that you're serving. My next question deals with your role as a youth ambassador. So since becoming a youth ambassador, how has your view of hunger changed? How has your view of hunger in America and within your communities changed?
So to start, I would like to kind of explain how my view was before being a youth ambassador. So I think we're all very aware that hunger is an issue in our country, in the whole world. But I think we're not, or most of us are not fully aware of how it actually affects our community. Like Callie mentioned earlier, it affects everyone around us. If you go to a grocery store, the person next to you at the cashier like can be affected with hunger, can be using the benefits from SNAP, can be using or needing summer meals. So it's a bigger program than I ever imagined. And so that was one of the biggest changes that I saw. As the more I get involved, the more I learn about it, the number of meals, and it goes for like thousands of meals that are being served every day throughout each state in the country. This speaks to the need of our country. And also knowing that even though we are serving so many meals, there are still people struggling. There are still people facing hunger. There's still a lot of obstacles for people to get summer meals. So that was very big. And also, once I realized how big the problem is and I started joining webinars and meeting more people, it was also very inspiring to see how many people, how many organizations are part of this change. How many people are passionate about it, to want to make a change, to help as many families as possible. How many people are applying to be sponsors of different meal sites. How many people are looking for new ways to help each family. And especially during COVID, we saw that a lot of organizations were very quick to, in some way or another, distribute as many meals as possible throughout each town and all over the country. So that was what I mainly learned from being a youth ambassador.
Yes, I agree so much with what EC said about, how I think a lot of people are, aware of hunger, in the world especially, and in America. I just don't think it quite settles in us with how close to home it is, and, how much of a problem it still is, even in today's modern society, around us. So I think that since becoming a youth ambassador, I have been able to get a very unique perspective on hunger in my community. I get to go behind the scenes a lot and watch the work. Like I'll go in the warehouse, pull the orders, I'll get to wrap it up. It'll be loaded up on the truck. I'll get to go to the distribution site, unload the food, pack the boxes, and actually hand it out to the people there. And I think getting to see that whole entire process and getting to be involved in it and to see the the smiling faces of the people who are actually receiving it, the end product, is very rewarding. Because like I said, you get to see how every little step matters and how it is affecting people in the community. So I think getting out on the field too is incredibly important, no matter who you are, to just make sure that you are seeing hunger and how it is affecting your community. So, when you're sitting at that school picnic table across from children, eating these, summer feeding program meals and getting to talk to them about, what they like, their pets at home, what they love in school, things like that, it kind of just breaks your heart that they're having to worry about a human need that is just, basic, something they shouldn't be worrying about. And they should be working on, school as hard as they can and pursuing their dreams, not worrying about where their next meal is coming from. So I think that really, makes it real and how prevalent it is in our communities around us.
Yeah, I agree 100% with the two women that spoke before me, and I don't think I could say it any better myself. But especially since becoming a youth ambassador, I remember reading the numbers as we were going through some of the trainings and hearing some of the statistics. And I remember thinking, like, that can't be right. There's no way. Like, how did I not know about this before if it's really this bad, to put it simply? Like, how have I not gotten on it? What am I missing out on? And it's so true. Like in Texas this past year for the pandemic, the number actually went up to 1 in 4 children suffering from food insecurity. And so that's 1 in every 4 kids. That's, 25%. That's a massive, massive number. And so once my eyes were open to that and being able to take action through being a youth ambassador, which has been such an incredible opportunity, there's an ignorance that, like, once you get out of that ignorance, you have to take action. And so that has definitely changed my perspective on hunger in America, and especially like within my community, because that's where I'm able to take action and interact with people and make an impact. But like we talked about earlier, like that welcoming environment, like there are so many ways that hunger impacts people. And that's something that we're tackling as we're going to these different sites. But definitely taking action and being motivated now that I know, what a problem it is, but I'm so encouraged by not only what a problem hunger is, but how many people are fighting it and putting in effort to make an impact. And my eyes have also been open to that through my partner's side and through No Kid Hungry. And so there's definitely, once again, a duality to it, but that's been an incredible opportunity to see both sides and to be part of it, and to tackle that problem. So I'm very excited about where it's going, but definitely eyes open for sure.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for those wonderful responses. I think there is a bit of a misconception when it comes to summer meals and who is able to access these summer meals. Summer meals are available to anyone under the age of 18. However, there's typically a gap when it comes to serving teens with summer meals. How do you engage teens at your sites? What's worked and what could be different?
So this is an issue that our staff has been trying to solve for years. And I think the main 2 things that helped us the most was how we presented our meals and the overall treatment of the teens when they were at our site. So all of our programs' signage has free meals for children and teens written on it. We always want to incorporate teens so they always know they're welcome. However, teens could honestly care less about what a sign says. So that's where how we treat them comes into play. So first and foremost, we always want to make sure they feel welcome and that they do not feel like they're being treated like a child. That is a big one. We always try to play music, not Kids Bop, but still clean music. Sometimes we do silly little trends like TikTok dances that are going around at the moment. We have these baggies that we serve our meals in. They're all colorful and they have little games on the back. And I admit, they're very childish. So if there's a teen that's not really into grabbing one, especially if other people are around, we will repack the meal into a plastic sack and offer it to them that way. And 9 times out of 10, it works. So that's another thing we do. If they have a little sibling, we will try and send a meal with their little sibling who comes up to get one. So the teenager is not coming up to get one. Our program always likes to add something to our bags that are fun for the kids, incentives, if you will. But we have been incorporating stuff that hopefully teens will like as well into our bags. We also, this is kind of a new thing that we've been messing around with, but we have a portable photo booth. It's so much fun, and we can just pack it up and go. And we're trying to incorporate that into some sites, so we'll see if that will help get teens involved. And, we're always trying to find new ways, and we're always asking, the teenagers that do come if there's ways we can improve. And these are just a few of them, but we're still trying to develop new ways. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I love the approach that Megan is using and trying to, make the necessary adjustments to include more age groups. That's wonderful and great ideas there, Megan. Something that we have done at our sites, now we haven't worked with a lot of teens this summer so far, but we did get the opportunity to go to one of our sites and do a nutrition presentation where we went, we had some things up on the screen we talked about with the teens, gave them lots of information about how they can, be healthy and eat lots of different, types of food when possible, and just like different ways they could be physically active too. So we talked to them, gave them information. We also gave them handouts and played a game with them that was really interactive and that they really liked and had fun with. And so I think just doing things like that, engaging them in that way, going in person, meeting them, just spending time with the teens is really, really helpful and beneficial. I also think, though, there was at one of our distributions in Mississippi, we were cleaning up and we needed some help putting some things in the back of a truck. And so at our distribution site, which was actually an apartment complex, a couple of the boys who lived there came out and helped us, put all the food boxes into the back of a truck. And they did great work there. They were able to do that. And then afterwards, we kind of, rewarded them by letting them take whatever food item they wanted from the mobile pantry that, we were doing. And I think that really, letting them receive that helped them appreciate it a lot more and, see that they can make a difference to people in their community as well. And I think that involvement and engagement is going to be something that's, going to be really helpful for teens.
Thank you both. Love to hear all of the different ways you're trying to engage kids and teens across all different age groups. Our next and final question for the night is looking forward, looking ahead. What gives you hope for future summers, and what improvements would you like to see?
So this is my third summer working for the summer meals, or working with the summer food program. And this is my second summer with No Kid Hungry. And there are two main things that just give me hope for future summers. And the first one is seeing how well so many programs adapted to the pandemic this past year. And then another one, which kind of came from that, is seeing the negative stigma that is associated with free meals. And just seeing that being broken gives me hope. So the pandemic opened my eyes to several things. I know many others could say the same thing more than likely. I always had the thought in the back of my head of what would happen if there ever came the day when we would not be able to serve meals to kiddos. And in all honesty, I thought I was about to live that reality. I remember walking into the office in May of 2020, and I had no idea what to expect. However, me and my team knew that there were still sweet kiddos that were hungry, and our only priority was to feed those kiddos in the safest manner possible. So that's when we hit the ground running, and we didn't really stop. We went out and served, and we were able to see some real change happen. And one of those changes was seeing the stigma being broken. There's always been somewhat of a negative stigma when it comes to receiving a free meal. However, I believe the pandemic was a time of realization that, hey, everyone needs help sometimes, and it's totally okay to ask for help or to seek resources like the Summer Meals Program. I remember a mom telling me how much she relied on these meals last summer, and she didn't know how her kids would have been fed without it. her and her husband have never sought assistance like this before. They both worked and had jobs, but they really relied on their husband's paycheck. And when that was taken away, they didn't know what to do. So I listened and I tried to assure her the best that I could and gave her some information for some other resources as well. And of course, she looked into them, but it changed her perspective. She did not look at free meals negatively, but she saw it as such a positive thing. And that was so powerful. And I know from other experiences that she's not the only mom or family member or family, for that matter, whose views have changed as well. And I can't wait to see the day when the stigma is completely gone. But I love the trend and the way it's headed right now, for sure. As for improvements that I would like to see happen, I would really like to see permanent installation of some waivers that are in place right now for the pandemic. These waivers are the non-congregate meal service. This is a huge one. It allows kids to simply grab a meal and go wherever they are needed, whereas a few summers ago, they had to eat their meal in the area, in our serving area that we had out. Obviously, with the pandemic, you wanted as much separation as possible, and this waiver 100% helped with that. But I think a lot of it would be very beneficial for a lot of people, just grab their meal and be on their way to practice or go home, or their parents can drop them off, grab a meal, and they can take them back home before they go to work. It's just, the benefits are amazing with this waiver. Another waiver is the flexible meal service time. This waiver allows sites to serve outside of their allowed time listed on their applications, as well as enabling sites to give more than one type of meal during their service times. These waivers, the two that I just mentioned, for our program have helped in tremendous ways. And the biggest way is we were able to open up a food delivery service program where we ship meals directly to the child's home. And with us serving a primarily rural areas and transportation being harder to obtain for kids as many live out of town, this has enabled us to serve thousands upon thousands of more meals to kiddos across our area. And then the last waiver that I would like to see permanently installed is the parent guardian meal pickup waiver. This is another game-changing waiver for us. Parents have been able to just make a quick stop in their busy schedules to make sure the child gets the proper nutrition they need. I know this was extremely important for the mom that I had mentioned earlier, as she was able to pick up meals for her kids and be on her way to work or home or wherever it may be. Many parents have utilized this option, and it's been so beneficial for so many. And I believe that it needs to stay that way. There are so many reasons why the waivers have been so helpful during this uncertain time. However, I believe that they would be just as helpful and beneficial as we work our way out of these times as well. Lastly, the summer meal program is one that always needs to stay on top of innovation as the time passes. And there are so many aspects that go into this program, and it can be overwhelming at times, but it is such a rewarding program. There are so many good things as well as areas that need improvement, but there's only one way to go, and that's up. These past 2 summers have been the most beautiful yet stressful times of my life. But even with so much uncertainty and stress, it all washes away.
So I'm super amazed by what Megan said. I'm so proud of everything that's going on in her state and everything. And I can definitely agree with that. One of the things that give me the most hope is how many people and how organizations just accommodated to what was going on last year, just to know that there are so many people out there willing to help and willing to put in the work necessary to fight kid hunger, throughout the country. So that was very, very inspiring, and it just gives me hope to know that there are people willing to do this job, and there will be always people passionate about helping others. So there's definitely change coming, and it will be better and in the future, definitely. I also definitely agree with the changes with a lot of the waivers. Personally, this was my first summer Before this, I had no idea that a summer meals program existed at all. And once I learned that before last year, families and kids were basically being forced to stay at the site to eat, it just blew my mind. It didn't make sense to me. Like Megan mentioned, there are a lot of families, a lot of parents that have a very tight schedule. So it just doesn't make sense. It never made sense to me that you would make the parent and the kids stay for, as long as they needed to eat the meal. I'm very grateful that that has changed since last year. And I also hope that that change stays. Again, it was just so many of the rules. I can understand why they're there, but it's definitely not useful when you're trying to make meals accessible to as many families as possible. Also, with all the work we do behind the scenes, at least in Connecticut, I am aware that the applications are very tedious for both the applicant and the people reviewing the applications. So I will definitely like to see a change there. There is no need for a very long application. It just makes it harder for the applicants to fill it out. It makes it harder for the people reviewing it to approve it on a timely manner every summer. And after the application is done, submitted, and reviewed, I think there's definitely a need for a smoother flow between the application, the approval, the hosting, and the promoting of the summer meal sites throughout our state. I think there's a need for definitely better policies when it comes to that. There's a lot of change that needs to happen, and I hope we get there. And especially last year and this year, I think a lot of us were able to notice and are able to see how hard it is. Especially in Connecticut, we had a waiver where a lot of more sites were able to apply. So instead of the usual 400 meal sites that the state will receive this year, they had 700 meal sites applications, which is awesome. The more the better for the kids. The more meal sites you have, the more kids you can have at your sites, the more families you can help. But because of this such high number of applications, the applications were not able to be processed on time. There's a huge delay. So again, there's just a lot of change that needs to happen with application, with the process and everything. And also, I think we all need to take into consideration how diverse our country is. I know that there are states that are more diverse than others, but throughout the country, we have so many different communities, so many different cultures, languages that are spoken. And we just need to make sure that we are reaching every community and not just focusing on the English-speaking community or even in the Spanish-speaking community. There are tens of languages spoken in this country. Each community needs the same help. Some may struggle a lot more because of policies and stuff. So I think that's definitely a change that I would like to see in the future as well. And
Yeah, I really like what Megan and ICs were saying, or ECs, sorry. But yeah, Megan, I really liked what you said about the adaptation with the pandemic. I feel like I've definitely seen that in my community, and that's given me a lot of hope. And just like the ways people are making serving meals more accessible. For example, like some of the meal sites, at least especially in June, were doing drive-throughs. And so families would come with their kids and they would pick up their meals. And so I feel like that makes it just a lot more accessible, especially because like parents might be working during the day and it's still like a lot harder to be able to just drop off their kid or to be with them. And so I feel like that was really helpful in just making like it easier for parents to get food for their kids. And yeah, and I also agree that the waivers should stay in place. I feel like that's been really good that families are able to access meals without having to just like have their kids like sit there and eat the food. And another thing that has given me a lot of hope is also just seeing like kind of like the interconnectedness with hunger and also other areas and kind of like how relational like food is. And so something that I would like learn recently is that with the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, they also work with like hospitals and pediatricians. And so something they've done is like pediatricians have started to screen for food insecurity. And so like with patients and even like write prescriptions for food pantries or other government assistance programs. And so I feel like that's been really good because like I feel like hunger should be a part of conversations like in all spaces. like also like offices, businesses, and in all these different areas. And I've also had like, yeah, so I feel like I've seen like a lot of hope just from the way like people and organizations are fighting for kids and fighting for ways to make it more accessible to them and to improve summer meal sites. And even seeing how like innovative people are. There's a school district in my area in Rogers, and I was able to see how they prepared summer meals in the cafeteria before it being sent to like the meal sites. And so something that they told me is that they used to buy these like individually packaged fruits, and it would cost them like 38 or 40 cents. And so now they've been buying fruit in bulk and individually packaging it themselves. So it's cost them like 5 cents per like fruit package. And so then they save that money and they use that like to buy more meals and are able to serve more children. And so that's given me a lot of hope, just seeing how people are working with other people and also finding more like innovative ways to like improve the food that they serve, like the nutrition, and also like lowering the cost so they can feed more kids. And yeah, and for improvements, yeah, I definitely liked what EC said about having lots of like obstacles with applications or like state policy barriers. So in Arkansas, or with the USDA federally, they require that for meal sites, people tally the number of meals. And so with Arkansas, what they've been doing is that they actually require more information for meal sites. And so they might require like the name of the kid or like their school. And so what that does is like it takes longer like to process kids to be able to get meals instead of just having to tally. And so with longer lines, and people might leave the lines or things like that. And so it makes it a lot harder to feed kids. And so something I would like to see an improvement of is, at least with my state in Arkansas, to abide more by the federal regulations and to make it like easier to serve meals to kids. And so I think sometimes the differences between like state and federal regulations like causes like more policy work or more like paperwork and logistics, which makes it harder to serve kids. And so something I'd like to see an improvement of.
Thank you. I loved hearing all of your answers. Obviously, in the journey to feed kids during these hungry summer months, there is a lot of room for improvement. But as we've seen with innovation and these waivers and exceptions, it has just grown tremendously within the last couple summers. With that being said, we have completed all of the questions that we prepared for the Youth Town Hall. And we would love to open it up to the audience to ask any questions that you might have had for our panelists as well. I already see one in the chat, so we're going to put it up on the screen now. And I'm going to ask our youth ambassadors, if you could talk to a kid or teen who needs summer meals, what would you tell them to encourage them to participate? And as our youth ambassadors are answering this question, feel free to drop your own in the chat, and then we can hopefully get the ball rolling.
So I will definitely just like general advice. Don't worry about anyone else. Don't worry about what anyone might think. Worry about yourself. Make sure that you are all set and have everything you need. I know as we get older, there's a lot more stigma. There's a lot more judgment that comes with teenagers and all of that. So I know it's not fun, but don't miss out on a free meal because of what other people might say or think. And if they do say or think, negative things about you, just disregard that. Later on, they will definitely regret it because they will realize, I know when we are in the teenager years, we may not realize that we're doing things wrong, but later on they will. So just focus on you. Make sure that you have everything you need. If you need a meal at any time, know that it is completely okay to need help. And again, this is a general advice in your life. It is always okay to need and ask for help whenever you want to or feel the need to. So yeah, that's my advice, is just do you and go and get that meal because it's worth it.
I think that my answer to this question is more of what not to do than what to do. Like from the perspective of the person asking it, I think a huge thing is remembering that these kids aren't a burden. They're not a job. They're not like, this is an opportunity and a privilege to be able to work with these kids and be a part of these kids' lives. Because these kids are the future and they're going to be doing incredible things and already are doing so many incredible things and conquering the world and chasing their dreams. And so I think when you have that perspective, when you're speaking with them and interacting with them, it no longer becomes a transaction, but more of an opportunity for impact in both regards. Because I like to think that all of these kids have been impacted positively, but I know for a fact that I myself and my team have been incredibly impacted by these kids. And so it's definitely not a one-way a one-way street. It's an opportunity, and it's been something that I've been so affected by, and seeing these kids perseverance and grit and kindness and joy. And so encouragement to participate is been a lot, at least in what I've seen and how you phrase things. It's not, okay, here, this is for you because you need it. But instead it's, hey, I'm really glad that you're here today. I would love to spend some time with you. We have some food over here. We have some activities. And I would love to get to know you. I'd love to learn your name and hang out with you or spend time with you or whatever that may be. And so I think I try to channel that perspective, and obviously it's a lot easier said than done. But I think with that perspective outflows authenticity and genuineness, and having that relationship with these kids and these teenagers and with the people in your community, really.
Just building off of that, I 100% agree. It's all about, I feel like, how you phrase it. Whenever kids, walk by our stand and look at us, we always were like, oh, how are you doing? Like, we have a free meal for you if you would like one. And if you don't mention anything else, you just keep it short and sweet, they're more than likely to run over and, and take a meal. And so it's always just, our motto here is keep it short and sweet and to the point. So that's what we try to do.
It looks like we have another question in the chat. Thank you all so much for the answers to that first one, and hopefully taking this advice, we'll see way more participation at these summer meal sites. The next question in the chat that I see is, what is your favorite memory so far from your time as a youth ambassador?
So personally, we have not had the luck to visit as much meal sites as we have, as I previously mentioned. But on our first visit that we did, it was for a kickoff event at a local high school. So it was really fun. But my best memory was that after it was done, after all the families got their meals and they were happy, me and my coworker, the other intern, we were trying to find the bathroom in a random high school. So it was a good small trip for us. But we came across this family who seemed lost. So I went up to them and asked them if they needed help. And by coincidence, they happened to only speak Spanish. And I was born in Peru, so my first language was Spanish. So I was able to help them. And they told me that they were lost, that they needed to find this place. And I told them, well, I'm not from the school, so I have no idea where that is, but let's try to find someone and help you. So we spent like 10 minutes together. We went, found the front office. I translated for them, and they were able to get everything they needed. So it was the realization that we did not only serve summer meals, we serve the experience, like a lot of the other interns have mentioned today. We have this other activities or little little games that you host. And then on top of that, especially in Connecticut, every time we do promote summer meals, we also promote the SNAP program. So it's not only, hey, let's make sure you have something to eat during the summer. It's let's make sure you have enough money to eat throughout the whole year. So that was very nice to just learn that we do promote summer meals and we do offer summer meals, but at the same time, we are here to offer as many resources as we can and help in any other way that we can.
I think mine, there's so many impactful experiences, but for some reason, when this question was asked, the first thing I could think of was one of our kickoff parties, and we had water guns out there, and I had one of the wimpy little pistols, that's like $1 from Dollar Tree, and some kid had found, like under the table, the Super Soaker, and I had no chance, absolutely none. And so I came home from that kickoff event drenched, but it was so much fun, and we had a blast. And I just remember laughing, like, these kids, I do not give them enough credit because they are something else and they're so much fun to be able to interact with. And so sometimes feeding kids is metaphorically and literally getting soaked with a super soaker, but it's very, very rewarding. So I really enjoyed my time then.
I think my favorite memory as a youth ambassador so far was made this summer. So, like I said, this was my third summer, and we still have one of our sites that we've had forever since the program began. And there's always this one family that comes up every day, every year, and gets a meal. Well, this year we set up our site and we've just got all set up, made it look very pretty and everything. And these kids from out of nowhere, I still have no idea where they came from. They came running and they were like, "Oh my gosh, y'all are back!" And like in that moment, my heart melted because I was like, "Oh, they're here." Like I was just excited as they were because it's been so long. It's been a whole year, you know. I haven't seen them, and they're so sweet and so kind. And just seeing them with, you know, walk away with their meals was just so encouraging. I'm like, yes, we're back. Absolutely. We are here. It was such a great way to kick off the summer, and it's a moment I will never forget for sure.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite memories has been like helping with the Cooking Matters class. And so like Cooking Matters, they do like nutrition education. And so something I really like is that it's like anyone can attend. And so it's really cool like to be able to like interact with people in the comments and just learn like the different ways people like buy their groceries or they prepare their meals. And so yeah, so I really enjoyed just like being part of that and just kind of because I don't know before like I didn't really know anything about nutrition, and so just being able to like learn that along people in my community and just being able to have like an inclusive conversation, not like, oh, this is good and this is bad, but like we do things differently and we're all trying to like improve our nutrition together. And so that's something that I really liked.
I think my favorite memory or memories have always kind of revolved around when I get to go to the sites and interact with the kids there. Those are always really, really special moments. But I can remember one specific site. I was there doing some site monitoring, and one of the boys there saw my lanyard, my school lanyard, and was asking about, college and stuff, and just seeing, how excited he was, asking about college life and what do you do there and stuff like that, because he was a middle schooler, was just really inspiring to me because you could just see how excited he was. And I mean, he was ready to go. He wanted to go back up there with me, in the fall. So I think just seeing that was really, really fun and inspiring to me.
Thank you all so much for those heartwarming responses. I think, that warm, fuzzy feeling that you get hearing and listening to your experiences is just like a wonderful way to wrap up our town hall for today. Thank you all so much again for the work that you do serving your communities. Thank you to those of you in the audience that have heaped praises upon our youth ambassadors and submitted questions. I'm really looking forward to seeing all of the great work that you are doing and will continue to do throughout the rest of the summer. But with that being said, thank you all for joining us today on our Summer Meals Youth Town Hall. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you.